Welcome, everybody. Hello, a little bit. Wait for a few people to come in. And good morning. Get off there. How's everybody doing this morning? Tammy, good morning. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm glad I was worried that my thing wasn't going to work over on this side. How's everybody doing? Oh God, we don't need that. All right, cool. Awesome. The team is logging on. I love it. I love it. Just gonna give it like 2 minutes before I start. Chill out. You know, it's amazing that I can count on you guys. It's a pretty amazing feeling. You guys are literally the best. I feel like maybe my screen isn't. Does everything look okay on your end? Does it, from Australia? No way, bro. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for showing 1 a.m. My God, that's putting in the work. That is putting in the work. Do you always trade like New York Open? Are you always up at 1 a.m. or is this just for me? I know it's not just for me. That's crazy. Shout out, shout out Australia. All right, I'm gonna dive into this. So this is basically my team. They already know kind of my morning routine. I feel like they do the kind of the same thing every day, and it's more just to where have we been, where are we at, and kind of take. We don't like to predict too much, but maybe see if we can get a prediction on where we're going next. So this is the top down. So when I look at the weekly, I'm just gonna look at. I'm just gonna do one. Like we do it both on NQ and ES, but I probably won't have time to do both. So I'll just make this a little bigger so we can get more screen real estate here. So we have it on the weekly. So basically what I'm looking at is there any like one way momentum? So like down here we have this big bullish candle. Like those are the what I want to look at, right? This nice big bullish candle. And then typically when we get these big candles, it leaves a little gap, these fair value gaps. That's kind of like an ICT concept. Um, but really it's just a range. It's just the market showing us there is a lot of buyers in this area, right? So this was an old resistance line here. So that's a resistance. And so when we came up on this week, we probably danced around here a little bit, um, knowing that this was some resistance, but then we broke through a force. So there was a lot of buyers. The analogy that I like to put it is there more people hopping on the northbound train or the southbound train? That's kind of the way I like to hop on the train that is packed, right? I don't want to jump on the train that's empty. So with this train heading north, I want to jump on that and ride the momentum. That's, um, so I look for those trains. This is a massive bullish candle. Here's another one, and I always like to see if there's any, if these, when these candles, these big bullish or bearish candles, if they're breaking through some sort of resistance or support. In this case, this one did break past resistance. So, those are the type of candles that I really pay attention to, um, because if you don't know, whatever type of resistance, once we break through it, it will hold up as support when we come back to it, right? So we haven't. There's so many buyers here, and the market's so strong. We haven't came back to this area. We have not come back to this area at all. That's how, like realistically, this red candle should have came back to like 50% of the range, which is close. From here to here, basically just eyeballing it, you're pretty close to 50% without putting the fib on, right? You can just eyeball stuff like that. It doesn't have to be precise. But, we should have come down a little bit further, but we didn't. So that's showing extreme strength. And then look at this engulfing candle. We just ate, like the next week, we just ate this red candle up. And then so on and so forth. It's kind of a theme, right? It's just the market is so strong. The market's so strong, and this is going back, throughout the summer. Now we're into 2026. So first week of 2026, what's going to happen? Well, we're just consolidating. We're getting tight. We're getting tighter and tighter. The consolidating it's getting squeezed, right? So if we go, just so you guys can kind of see what I mean by squeezing. It means we came up and we're consolidating. This is consolidation. We're just bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Now, when we get to the end, when we can't, there's nowhere to go. Like there's just once we get so tight and we're squeezing so small, there's going to be a pretty decent move. Now, because the market is so strong, yes, I do anticipate us moving to the upside, but that's just something that we have to wait and observe. Like we're just here to observe the market. I don't want to predict if we're going to break to the downside or break to the upside. It really doesn't matter to us. It really doesn't matter. It's just whether or not we can recognize it or not. So let's get rid of these. But it's nice to see that we are so when we go into our trading day today, we can say to ourselves, we're inside yesterday's weekly candle. We're not breaking out. The moves are getting smaller and smaller. Let's look for little base hits. Let's just look for extremely small base hits. Take those 10, 20, 30 points and call it a day. And then, if we're looking for massive home runs, we can wait until we break out of that triangle. Let's just jump down to the daily. And then it's just rinse and repeat. We're going to do that on every time frame, what we just did. So what do I see on the daily? Again, it's the same thing. We're just consolidating and we're ranging, right? We're ranging, getting super tight. So you can do the same thing. You draw your line here, you draw your line here. We're getting tight. There's no, you know, there's no. This was a massive day. We shot up, broke a little bit of resistance, but it's not. When I say like resistance, I want it's you want the market to like point to where the support and the resistance is. Like right here, the market is like physically pointing to this area. So this will hold up as support. It is currently support because the market's like literally showing you where it is. Literally just showing. Sorry, I just got a text. The market's literally showing you where the support and the resistance. That's when you get really good support and resistance areas. Is when it's like just so obvious. It's just super clear. So again, I don't really see anything on the daily where some ICT traders will say, oh well, we're respecting this fair value gap. I mean, sure, right? If you want to say like maybe, kind of, not really. I would say we actually disrespected it because we closed outside, and then now we're that's why ICT is so difficult, right? I just see it as we're ranging. It's just a range. We're consolidating. We're waiting for something. The market, once we get into a position where there's nowhere to go one way or the other, um, the that's when the market, it's always like a coincidence, right? It's always, oh, we're at all-time highs, Trump will tweet something and we dump. Like, what a coincidence, right? Why we were just at all-time highs? What a coincidence that the market just dumped, right? That's why I never say I don't believe in coincidences. There's always a rhyme or reason. So when we get into this tight triangle, that's probably when something will happen, right? Something will give and will shoot in one direction or the other. So I don't really see anything in the on the daily other than and it's funny because this fair value gap, as an ICT trader will say, is it's right in the middle of the range. So this is, you don't want to buy in the middle. It's kind of gambling. Like, I mean, if you're talking, this is the daily, so this is more of a long-term portfolio talk. Now that we're down to the 4 hour, now we can start talking about intraday trading. The weekly and the daily time frames are more for swing trades, large, your retirement funds type of trading, right? You don't want to buy when it's your risk levels are higher. You want to buy at the top and or sorry, sell at the top and buy at the bottom. Essentially, going back to very simple long-term methods. Anyways, 4 hour time frame. It's kind of it's the last 2 days we've just been slowly grinding up. There is kind of, maybe we um, might be forming some sort of trend now, possibly. We'll see. Maybe is this the bottom? Are we gonna push higher? It's hard to say. We're kind of in a tricky area right now. I don't really like anything that I see on the 4 hour because we have this big push down, but it didn't break any like support lines going through. Like, it did break this one, but it's just not pretty. I don't like it. On our way up, and it kind of sucks because while we're grinding up, this is just such a massive range. So this is the way I look at it, right? Let's just draw a box, because let's just go right to the top of that red candle, right to the bottom of that red candle, and this is your range, right? Let's not overcomplicate it. So what do we do when like, going back to make it as simple as possible? Where do we want to buy and where do we want to sell? Well, we want to buy at the bottom, we want to sell at the top. If we break outside of the box, this is just your simple box theory, right? You can YouTube like box theories. It is a strategy. So when you break out of the box and you maybe break and then retest and then you continue higher, same at the bottom. Otherwise, you're just selling at the top and buying at the bottom. It's super simple. But now that we're kind of close to the middle, we're just going to be looking for very small intraday entries. So let's go. So we don't really, there's nothing showing me nothing on the 4 hour right now. So, and it all comes back because we're consolidating on the bigger time frame. So once we start realizing, on the bigger time frames we're consolidating, as we work our way down the time frames, we're still consolidating. So like knowing all of that information, are we looking at this fair value gap on the hourly? Not really, because we're consolidating on every time frame right now. We are within a massive 4 hour candle. We're within a pretty large size 1 hour candle. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't. There's just it's kind of sucky right now because it's just we have a big M right now, and we kind of we grab some buyers up down here, and everybody's agreeing that we want to go higher right now, but then we got up towards the top of this range. Notice how we went right to the top of this 1 hour candle. That is the top of the range, just like the bigger time frames. Everything's fractal. So it doesn't matter if you're on the daily, the weekly, the 4 hour. I typically don't go any more, like, for because I'm a day trader. I don't really look at larger time frames too long. I just like to see where I am, kind of like in the present moment, whether we're at all-time highs or at some sort of mid, discount range of, a leg up or something. That's really the only reason why I look at the bigger time, like the weekly or the daily. Whether or not we are, respecting some sort of large time support or resistance. But realistically, it's the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and the 15 minute. So we're this resistance, the top of the range, aka resistance, right? That right here, that 4 hour, or sorry, this 1 hour candle, this is the 1 hour time frame. So you could really bring that all the way down here, right? We got bought up pretty quick down here, but realistically, like, we're still in a pretty large range. This is a range, you know? So, but if you talk to an ICT trader, this is your fair value gap, which is kind of in the middle of the range. So it's higher risk. We came up to the top of the range, we got rejected down. Simple as that. Again, there's nothing here for me. So basically, the way I would trade, what I'm looking at right for today is, maybe at open, let's go down to the 15 minute, see, this is where we're going to really get our intraday um, trades. This is what I trade on the 15 minute 90% of the time, either the 15 minute or the 2 minute. So this is where I'm looking for entries. So what am I looking at for today? Well, I will be putting Savvy's levels on, but obviously I cannot share with you guys on YouTube all of the Savvy levels because, that is part of a VIP premium Discord, which, I mean, if you want in on that, there is a link in my Instagram at Trevor_trades. I don't have it here yet on YouTube, but yeah, if you head over to the Discord, or you can look up Brad Schulten, Savvy B Trades. If you guys are interested, anybody in here that or is watching this that doesn't know what I'm talking about, Savvy Traders on Discord. Most underrated community in the game as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a massive part of it. I truly believe in what we do over there. Anyways, is this is what I like to see on bigger time frames. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of this because we know that we're in a range on multiple time frames. We're inside of a range. So it's gonna be very manipulative, very I'm not gonna say that more than once. Basically, we've been grinding up. This is an obvious point of old support. We broke through it. All right. When we came back to it, look what we did. Look at what we did. We held it. Now, not a perfect hold. We call this an overshoot, so the most safest way to play support and resistance is when I do it on the 15-minute chart. I basically wait for, see, it's kind of, this is pretty tricky because it is a pretty decent overshoot, but essentially playing the red to green on the 15 minute is the safest way to go about it. So um, you might have got faked out here, but if you're convinced that this is kind of like the rebalance and we want to head lower, like if you have that in mind, which I probably would be, I wouldn't be anticipating us going higher with this just slow grind up. This is a pretty decent area of resistance. So I would be playing the rejection on this. So I would be waiting for a red to green. So essentially, we closed, we open here, we come up. When this candle turns red, that's when we enter to go short. So that is called the red to green. Um, on the 15 minute, it is like, it's very, very high convention on on entry models, right? Very, very high. We just want to, this is also, you got to realize this is also pre-market. It's not going to be the best price action right now. We had nothing. A little 8:30. Did we have news at 8:30? We should have. It's not a very big, if we did, it's not a very big news candle. We need some momentum. We basically, for today, I'm going to be very, very conservative. There's nothing that I really like. This is support. So I'm going to probably mark this out. This is some nice support. We came down, we came up, we got rejected. So there's, old resistance, broke through it, and we actually got the nice break and retest right here. So we broke it, came back to it, and then pushed up. So that would have been a beautiful break and retest. We came up, main resistance. Now we're holding that support again. So we'll see at open whether we, start just selling off. We're going to see which way the train is headed. We want to wait until, we have, let's just see who's loading on which train, or if any. If it's just like a fight between buyers and sellers, then we sit back and let them fight. Let everybody's accounts get blown up, and then we hop on a train with all the survivors, right? That's basically what I'm going to be looking at when I go into today, is seeing where the buyers are, seeing where the sellers are, be patient. Um, if I would love to maybe, because I do think that we're gonna, if we pop out of that larger time frame triangle, I do think that we're gonna go up. Um, but you just never know. You just never know, right? Especially, we all know how Trump has such a play on the market. So, we gotta be thinking about that. But listen, there's always going to be something in the market, and like there's so much with the United States taking oil reserves, from other countries. There's always something in the news. It doesn't matter. So yeah, it's always burning in the back of my mind. But the longer I do this stuff, you just start to realize that there's never not going to be a time where there's something going on. So when we're looking at CNN or whatever news you guys listen to, if you think, wow, look at this, this is going to have a massive effect in the markets. Don't don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. We're price action traders. We're level traders. And you know what? We've seen these levels, the savvy levels, these, just support, marking out support and resistance. I'm gonna get into more of these like lessons on how to mark out really good targets and support and resistance in the future. Today is kind of just a morning routine, what I basically do every single morning, with a little bit of a game plan. So, my game plan going into today is just probably playing a break and retest of one of these yellow lines, and then I'll have Savvy's levels on my screen, and they help guide everybody through the markets as well. So, try not to let the news get to you. Don't, have anxiety over what you think the market's going to do. We're just simply observing the market. Wait for the train to load up, and then you hop on with it. It doesn't get much easier than that. Anyways, unfortunately, YouTube, I have to leave. I am going to jump over to Discord and go live with the premium group. I can't wait to see you all there. So peace, YouTube. I'll see you soon. Discord.